Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant, and I'm back with some more vibes for you. And this one is kind of interesting to me. And this one is called "What Is Voodoo?" Yeah, and it's a little bit. I know a little bit about it. Now, on my island in Grenada, we don't call it voodoo. We call it obia. It's pretty much the same thing, but there's a little bit of differences and thing, and I ain't gonna go into that difference between Obia and Voodoo. I may do something like that in the future. Now we're gonna take a look at what it is, and as far as I could tell, I watched like a couple seconds of the beginning, and it seemed to come from the African perspective and not the Caribbean perspective. So it's kind of like I'm going into somewhere where I haven't really looked deep into the African perspective of it. So because we all know that the voodoo or voodoo is a religion originated in Africa. So we gonna go in here and check out the Bible thing and see what's going on. I tell you what. I wrote a couple of small books, and it's fiction. One of them is loose historical fiction, and voodoo or obia, and let me say obia instead, is sort of a part of it. You know what I mean? A major part of it. I use some of the deities and stuff, and mixed in with some of the folktale characters and stuff. I'll leave a link in the description if you want it. You can go check it out. You can get it on Amazon and also through Kindle. And it's one of the ones that I had a lot of fun writing, called Obia. If I had fun writing it, you might have fun reading it and things. So go check it out and thing. It's a good read, I think. You know what I mean. But anyway, let's get into this here and see what they're saying about voodoo. Let's YouTube and simmer.
Religion in Africa is a major influence on almost all aspects of life. Although the majority of Africans today are adherents to Christianity or Islam, African people often combine the practice of their traditional belief with the practice of the two Abrahamic religions. Even though these two main religions are widespread and have for the most part replaced indigenous African religions, they are often adapted to African cultural contexts and belief systems.
Same thing in the
One
Caribbean.
of Africa's, if not the world's most misunderstood religions is Voodoo. It has suffered from a bad press internationally, thought of with suspicion, associating it with the occult, human sacrifice, black magic, witchcraft, and satanism. Even today, Voodoo is often used as an adjective to describe something that is mysterious and something to be feared.
I tell you what, him poking that doll. I remember when I first came to this country, I was in Kentucky at a small Christian college, and somebody asked me, somebody was having trouble with a dude. A girl was having trouble with a dude and told me, "Can you make me a voodoo doll?" And I'm like, "What's a voodoo doll?" "But you from the islands, you don't know what a voodoo doll is?" "No, I ain't never heard about no voodoo doll. Don't give me this Hollywood stuff." And maybe in Louisiana, voodoo they do it. But I have never heard of a voodoo doll and people sticking pins in it to hurt the next person until I came to this country. That's the first time I heard about a voodoo doll. But let's keep going. Let's see what the Africans got to say about all of this.
Through Hollywood stereotypes that often make African viewers groan, Voodoo probably isn't what you think. Therefore,
It's
it
not.
might be easier to start with what it is not. Voodoo is not accurately depicted in most movies, TV shows, and books. Even some documentaries and non-fiction content are often misleading. Voodoo isn't a cult, black magic, or devil worship. People who practice voodoo are not witch doctors, sorcerers, or cannibals. Voodoo isn't a practice that is meant to control or hurt others. Most voodoo followers have never seen a voodoo doll unless, like you, they saw it in a movie. It is not morbid or
You see what I tell you? Boom, you just said it right there. I ain't never seen no bloody voodoo doll until I come here and they say that, and then I had to watch movie. What? The serpent and something or the other. I don't remember the full name of the movie, and there was a voodoo doll in there, and I'm sitting there going, what? What is this? What is this?
Or violent, and it is not the same everywhere. This sensationalism around voodoo, its many deities and traditions of animal sacrifice, is, according to followers, perhaps the main reasons why voodoo
I ain't never seen
is
an
one of
animal
the
sacrifice.
most misunderstood religions in the world. So what is voodoo? Some anthropologists estimate that voodoo's roots in Benin, formerly known as Dahomey in West Africa, may go back 8,000 years.
See, I'm gonna stop it right there, and I'm trying to click this thing, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But especially on the islands, voodoo was vilified because because you know how religions bring people together, and to keep the slaves from having their own identity and on and being proud of where they're from, they vilified voodoo. That's part of it. The other part of it is that the slaves being oppressed, they looked to certain voodoo deities in order to seek revenge on those who had enslaved them. So, it kind of becomes sort of violent and stuff a little bit. But let's continue, because I know some of the voodoo laws, gods or saints or what you want to call them, they had the one of law, of war, of sea, just like Greek mythology. But let's go on.
Yes, and is considered the cradle of the voodoo religion. Today, an estimated 65 million people practice voodoo worldwide. It is one of Africa's oldest traditional religions. In the Americas and the Caribbean, it is thought of to be a combination of various African, Catholic, and Native American traditions. The word voodoo,
And if you read my book, you'll see the mixture there.
Fon tribe word for God or spirit. It is a comprehensive system of knowledge that has nothing to do with derogatory images such as sticking pins into dolls, putting a hex on an adversary, or turning innocents into zombies. Zombies are an especially good example of how a religious element can be taken out of context and become a global phenomenon. Voodoo is an organized form of communal support that provides meaning to the human experience in relation to the natural and supernatural forces of the universe. Voodoo followers believe that all life is driven by spiritual forces of natural phenomena such as water, fire, earth, and air, and that these should be honored through rituals like animal sacrifices. They also acknowledge the existence of both a supreme being and many smaller gods, which can intercede with the supreme being on behalf of humans. The religion has a driving presence and is the official religion in Benin and Haiti, but practiced widely in Togo, parts of Nigeria, Louisiana, New Orleans, and in places that hold the remnants of West African slavery, such as Cuba, Brazil, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic.
And the small islands.
This is perhaps the only traditional African religion to survive in the New World. So why has it been vilified for so long? During the 1700s, thousands of West African slaves were shipped to Haiti to work on French plantations. These slaves were baptized as Roman Catholics upon their arrival in the West Indies. Their traditional African religious practices were viewed as a threat to the colonial system and were forbidden. Practitioners were imprisoned, whipped, or hung. In 1685, France colonialists banned any practice of religion in its colonies. Slaves had to be converted within 8 days of their arrival, with many baptisms taking place. The voodoo religion did not die. However, it simply merged with the new adopted Catholicism to give the impression of conversion. One common saying is that Haitians are 70% Catholic.
And I tell you a funny story about that. There was this I had this old lady that I knew, and I used to go to her house all the time, and she's a staunch Catholic, you know what I mean? And I noticed her doing stuff like, okay, she had this enamel bowl, and she'd get some wickers and the corkscrew of a wine bottle, the old fashioned one where you have the corkscrew in there. And she'd stick a hole, put the wick in it, then have oil. I believe it was olive oil. I'm not sure, but it's some kind of oil in the bowl. And in the bottom of the bowl, she had names, and she lit the three wicks and stick it in the middle of a house, And I thought that was a Catholic ritual or something she was doing, you know what I mean? And and later on, when I was old enough to start looking into all this stuff, I realized it's an old remnants from the voodoo vibe that she was doing. You know what I mean? So, see, there you go. Instead of abandoning their religions, especially in the Caribbean or wherever their slaves are, I'm assuming, they integrated their religion into Catholicism. And in some of the cases, they even sort of made some of the deities and gods line up with the Catholic saints and everything. It's really fascinating. It's really fascinating. Let's go. I'm excited about this one.
30% Protestant and 100% Voodoo. It is said that Voodoo inspired the revolution against Haiti's French colonizers more than 200 years ago, that established Haiti as the second independent nation in the Americas after the United.
I think, off the top of my head, that they gave praises to, was it Baron Samedi? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But I think that's what they did before they went into I believe it's him. It might be a different one. But he was the one that they did give praises to before the battles was supposed to be the deity of war.
States, the first to abolish slavery and the first black independent nation. Panicked, slave owners throughout the Americas reacted by clamping down with extra force on all African-based religious practices. They circulated stories that linked the religion with blood and violence, cannibalism, and devil worship, images that endure to this day.
Today.
Back to Africa. To understand what voodoo followers believe, you first have to understand how.
I tried to explain all of this to an African American lady, and she's Christian, and she don't want to hear it. She don't want to hear nothing about that witchcraft and that devil worshiping and stuff. She did not want to hear it. That's generations. I hate to use the term indoctrination, but that's pretty much what it is. Generations of indoctrination. They sort of washed the belief system out of these people, pretty much almost kill the religion just so they could control them. It's got nothing to do with Christianity trying to be better than. It's got everything to do, it was strictly political. And of course, yeah, Christianity to a certain degree too, but political mainly. For fighting for riches and trying to keep the people, the labor, from uniting under a banner of some kind of religious belief. They cracked down. They were burning people at the stakes, beheading people, just doing crazy stuff to them back in the day, so that they could not practice their religion. And it's surprisingly survived. I don't know how prevalent it is on the island anymore. When I was growing up, man, it wouldn't be nothing to be, sleeping at night and hear the drums and the singing and the dancing, and they'd go all night long doing this. You know what I mean? All night long.
How a voodooist sees the world. Those who practice voodoo believe that there is a visible and an invisible world, and that these worlds are intertwined. Death is a transition to the invisible world, so ancestors are still present in the spirit. Award-winning Hollywood actor Jimon Honsu explained it best.
We're either here having a human experience, we're a spiritual being having a human experience, on this face, on the face of the earth, or we are human being having a spiritual experience. I mean, which one is it? So I think once we come to that understanding, I think it's pretty clear that we're all spiritual beings, that we live on after this life experience.
The famous Blood Diamond actor set out to reveal to the world the benefits of voodoo traditions through a documentary film called In Search of Voodoo, which was based in his homeland Benin. Check it out when you get some time.
Check it out, it's good.
About 60% of Benin's 8 million population practice voodoo, and the country has a national voodoo day to celebrate it, a public holiday ranking with Christmas and the Muslim Eid. Whatever your opinion of voodoo, it's hard to ignore the energy and devotion its followers at a gathering like this. The celebrations follow a week of activities centered on the worship of gods, culminating in worshippers descending on the historic voodoo city of Oida, where the high priest slaughters a goat and offers water to the gods. Covered in dry grass and spinning almost out of control, but with intricate dance steps to the rhythmic drum beats of voodoo music, high priests always lead followers in marking the celebrations. Performing their practices in broad daylight, the followers engage one of the deities worshipped in Benin known as Atingali, which they say is the fight against witchcraft. According to followers, participation in voodoo rituals reaffirms one's relationships with ancestors, personal history, community relationships, and the cosmos. The spirits have various functions running the universe, much like Greek gods. The colorful events, no longer secret or underground, have also become popular tourist attractions. The United States of America has also seen voodoo become a prominent feature of the New Orleans tourism industry, with countless shops, tours, exhibitions, and museums capitalizing on the city's historic connection to the religion. In the end, voodoo has a largely undeserved reputation as an occult religion. Though some rituals involve animal sacrifices, it is hardly unique. Many other religious traditions involve animal bloodletting, including Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Hinduism. Both Islam and Christianity are religions of the book. Their doctrinal authority lies in their scriptures. African traditional religions, however, produced no written works, but derived their authority from oral history, custom, and practice, and the power of priests and other gifted in dealing with spiritual issues. This lack of scriptures led to the assumption that people in Africa were not capable of proper religious observance. According to its followers, voodoo is a way of life, and it may be one of the world's oldest ancestral nature-honing traditions. Our desire to inspire a passion for learning about Africa runs deep. If you'd like to have some better understanding of the continent, start now by subscribing.
Yes. I'm glad I watched this year. I'm really glad I watched this year from an African perspective and where it's actually practiced. You know what I mean? All that stuff you always see in Hollywood there, where people, blood just flowing from people's eyes and stuff when you put a curse on them. Okay, let me retract. On the islands, yes. People do say that that Obia and voodoo priests put curses on, but we now can figure out where that idea come from, and it's amazing that because the rulers at the time implanted in the people's mind that some people think that they could actually do such things, and do that. I remember as a kid, I even got a couple of times to just sit in and they have designated drummers, don't get me wrong, but after a while everybody's getting tired, man. You just jump in, you know what I mean? And I remember one time I went on a field trip to a place called Granny Tang Lake, and as we were going down to the lake, we heard the singing and chanting, and they were all wearing like white, all white. And and the women had the white turbans and stuff on their heads, and they were singing, and they were coming down, and they were throwing food in the lake and stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. You know what I mean? Because I was raised Catholic. You know, a lot of the masses when I was a kid was done in Latin. I don't understand what they were saying unless they start praying in English and stuff like that. But it's a part of history, you know what I mean? That, you know, when people tell me about putting a curse on them, and I try to tell them that's not what. Listen, let me put it to you this way. I came here and I went to church with some people, and it's a church called Good Old Regular Baptist, I think they call it. And they was prancing around and screaming, and the band is in a frenzy, and they playing, and you know. And I'm thinking, that's just like a voodoo meeting where they're playing the drums and prancing around and doing all of that. You know, pretty much the same thing. And I don't know if that is a result of Christianity or vice versa. I don't know, but that's what it seemed like to me. That, you know, there's a similarity, you know what I mean? But, you know, all that crazy stuff about, you know, putting curses on people, and you could get well, back when we call them Obi a man, or Obi a man. But to put a curse on a woman, and the woman's gonna fall in love with you, I ain't never seen none of that happen for real. The only time people say that stuff is if somebody they deem to be not worthy of that person, then they're gonna go, he went to an Obi a man. To get that person to fall in love with them. You know what I mean? A lot of it too is herbs and stuff back there. You know, if you go to my mom always tell me that will be a man, don't drink no Kool-Aid at his house, because they put stuff in the Kool-Aid, and people who proclaim the practice stuff, they put stuff in there for you to drink that's gonna upset your stomach. And they're gonna tell you, if your stomach get upset tonight, that means that it's working. You'll get that woman. I'm just paraphrasing here, you know, whatever the curse is, you know. And back home they don't say they put a curse on you, they say they do ya. You know, and it was used a lot of times to explain sickness and stuff like that. If somebody's sick and nobody knows what's wrong with him, she done do him, or he done do him, or, you know, put on a curse and stuff like that. But I remember when I used to go visit my dad, there was a voodoo area up there, or Obia area up there, where they used to put out all this food for the gods and stuff like that. We used to sneak in there as kids and eat that stuff, man. That was some good food. That was some good food, I tell you. Pilau, oil dung. I mean, they had everything in there. Rice and peas, stewed chicken, goat meat. I mean, they were going crazy in there trying to feed the gods. But, you know, I had my fill. But anyway, I don't want to talk too long. Thank you all for watching this for me. You know what I mean? Link for this video is in the description. And like you heard the gentleman say, they have, if you want to learn anything about Africa, check out their channel. Go watch it up and take like that, you know what I mean? I really enjoyed doing this one. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it with me. And remember, take care of each other. Cool runnings.